Welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. I want to begin by talking about something that is almost impossible to believe, but it is true. You know, one of the things that we have talked about frequently here is what we might call creeping Sharia. How Sharia is just sort of creeping up on us. And there are so many ways in which our culture is becoming Sharia compliant, and we are acquiescing with this. We're not resisting this. We are not standing up and protesting this. And again, this is part of the fatal weakness of kind of folk Christianity, I call it. Because in folk Christianity, what we are taught is that the essence of godliness is niceness. That's what we're taught. That we're taught and led to believe that the mark of God-likeness, the mark of Christ-likeness, is being nice. Now, one of the things that I hasten to remind people is that Christians, we have not been called to be nice. We have been called to be good. Now, the difference is that nice people never confront evil. They never confront evil people. They just go along. They acquiesce. They capitulate because they think that's what God wants them to do. They believe that God has called them to be nice. So whatever the other person wants, they're going to give it to them, even at the expense of principle, even at the expense of truth, even at the expense of their own unalienable rights. They'll give those things away. They will give away the things, the unalienable rights that God has given to them just because somebody else insists that they give it up. And these folk Christians say, okay, all right, that's what you want. I'm supposed to be nice. Here you go. You can have it.
What could I say to you?
Now, let me tell you about what went on in Rocky Mountain High School, Fort Collins, Colorado. Now, fortunately, I think we're getting to a point in our culture where people have just about had it with this niceness. They've just about had it with political correctness. They realize they're being pushed around. They're being bullied. They're being intimidated. They're being falsely labeled bigots and Islamophobes and homophobes and racists and sexists and all other sorts of things. And they've just had it. They're tired of being falsely accused. They're tired of being bullied. They're tired of being pushed around. They're tired of giving up things that are precious, not to just to themselves, but to their communities and to our country. And they're standing up and they're starting to say, look, this, no more. We're not going to put up with this any longer. Here's a story from GOPthedailydose.com. This site got just overloaded. It was on Drudge today. And you couldn't hardly get on this site. I don't know what their capacity is, but their servers were overwhelmed, which again, to me, is an indication the American people are waking up. Be encouraged by this, ladies and gentlemen. Be encouraged by this. I mean, there's part of this story that's absolutely reprehensible, but there's another part of this that is tremendously encouraging because it's a sign that perhaps the sleeping giant has been awakened. Remember at the end of the Pearl Harbor thing, after the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor, one of the Japanese officials, I don't know if it was the foreign minister, the defense minister, one of the commanders in the commanding generals in the army, he was pretty somber at the end of the movie Tora, Tora, Tora. You watch that movie to the end, and this is a true fact. I mean, that was a pretty accurate movie. But the Japanese official is wondering whether we have awakened a sleeping giant. In other words, he's saying, look, America, the United States is a giant. Maybe we should have just left it alone because he was a sleeping giant. Perhaps we have awakened him. And of course, they wound up regretting the day that they dropped bombs on Pearl Harbor. But here's the story, GOPthedailydose.com. The principal at Rocky Mountain High School in Fort Collins, Colorado, is facing a hailstorm of criticism from some very angry parents and residents. These people are good, but they are not nice. They've had it with niceness, being played for chumps, played for suckers, pushed around, told to sit down, sit in the corner, and shut up. They've had it with this. The school recites the Pledge of Allegiance weekly on Mondays. Last Monday, a member of their Cultural Arms Club, led the student body in an Arabic version of the Pledge of Allegiance, replacing the words "under God" with the words "under Allah." Now, I want to know what you think about that. 888-589-8840. Call in right now. 888-589-8840. What do you think about this school replacing God with Allah in the Pledge of Allegiance that they had their students recite? 888-589-8840. What do you think about this? Rocky Mountain High School replacing "under God" with "under Allah" in the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, the principal says, look, we're not trying to push an Islamic agenda. They're just trying to do the thing in Arabic. He says, look, this is unintelligible to these students. They don't even know what they're saying, which, I mean, then what's the point of the exercise? Because, you know, this is how they do it in the madrasas in Islam. I mean, in Islamic madrasas, these students, they don't have any idea what they're reading because they are mindlessly memorizing by rote the Quran in Arabic, even though they don't speak Arabic. So it's just mindless repetition. They have no idea even what they are saying. They just memorize it. It's just sounds. It's just sounds that they memorize and repeat, and they don't even know what they're saying. Well, so what's the point of that? There's no educational value to that. Nobody's learning anything. It's just kind of mindless repetition. But anyway, the school communications director, Poudre School District Communications Director Danielle Clark, said they understand why parents are upset. She told Fox News, "We understand not everybody would agree with the student's choice. We've heard there are some who are upset." That's the understatement of the year. So anyway, I don't know what they're going to do about this. The Muslim Brotherhood is out there defending this, as they obviously would. Let me see if there's anything else in this story. I want to be sure we get on the table before I take your phone calls. The Muslim Brotherhood dude, he represents CAIR, that's C-A-I-R. They're a front for the Muslim Brotherhood. Remember the Muslim Brotherhood, their stated goal was exterminate Western civilization. Do not be under any misunderstanding about the purpose of the Muslim Brotherhood and the goal of the Muslim Brotherhood. It is to wipe us off the map. Their goal, stated goal, is to undermine, sabotage, destroy, eliminate, exterminate Western civilization. They want to sabotage our miserable house. Now, sabotage, that's kind of under the radar. That's exactly what they're doing here. This is an act of sabotage against our country and against our Pledge of Allegiance. So the Muslim Brotherhood guy said he was dumbfounded by complaints about the Arabic version of the pledge. How on earth is it un-American to recite the Pledge of Allegiance in another language? It doesn't make sense unless the people complaining are anti-Muslim or anti-Middle Eastern bigots. See, there you go. We got a problem with it. You get called a name. You're a bigot. You want to preserve Pledge of Allegiance to the Christian God, and you object when it's changed, and your students are exposed to that. That just makes you a bigot. So once again, that's what they do. That's how they push us around. That's how they intimidate us. Just call us names, call us bigots, and everybody then rolls over. Now the principal is labeling himself as a victim. He says, I've been shocked with the president's prejudicial statements that have been made. I've been shocked with the lack of seeking understanding. There's definitely suspicion and fear expressed in these people's minds. There's some hate. So once again, if you got a problem with this, you're a bigot, you're prejudiced, or you're a hater. They just call you names. They don't talk to you. They don't dialogue with you. They just call you names and hope that that will make you go away and silence you, intimidate you, the use of these cliches to intimidate you into silence. Let's grab a couple of phone calls. Let's go to Harold, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Harold, what do you think?
Well, you said a lot of what I was thinking already, but I'll make a quick comment and I'll get off and get your opinion. But I think that this principal is, I think he's deluding himself, as a lot of people do. That to back up a second, what a lot of people don't want to admit or understand is even though people speak other languages, immigrants have always, for over 200 and something years, been coming here. You know, my family's German and Scotch and you know, Dutch and some other things. But long story short, even though they spoke it at home, they assimilated into our society and made sure their kids learned English and learned how to speak it and read it and assimilate and raise, their children to do the same. But there seems to be this mentality about Muslims that they don't have to do that, that we're supposed to acquiesce, I can't even say it right, to give in every inch in our society, whether it be in the courts, whether it be in the schools, whether it be in our, you name it, marriage law, everything. They want everything put on the plate for them. They want to come here and reap our benefits. I think it's totally out of place. If I was a parent, I would be on that doorstep protesting. So that's what I wanted to tell you.
All right, here, listen, I appreciate that. Thank you for that call. And, assimilation is a key part of becoming an American. What that means is you learn our Pledge of Allegiance in English, and you recite it in English. Why? Because you are now in the United States of America. English is our national language. You learn to sing the national anthem in English. Why? Because you are in America, and our national anthem was written in English. I mean, that's just a no-brainer to me. If we move to France, you go to France, you want to live there, you become a citizen, they're going to expect you to learn the French national anthem in French. They're going to expect you, whatever Pledge of Allegiance they've got, whatever the parallel is, they're going to expect you to learn it and say it in French. They would be offended if you said, you gotta let me do that in English. All right, let's go to John, Centerville, Georgia. John, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, how are you? I got one word that sums it up. It's called treason. We are absolutely giving away the sovereignty of the United States, and by doing what was done at this school, that's treason, bottom line.
All right, well, listen, I appreciate the call, and I sense your passion, and that's what this principal is running into. And he thinks it's just bigotry. He thinks it's just hatred. It's not. It's a love of this country. It's a love of our heritage. It's a love of our Christian heritage. We understand, as we talked about yesterday, we understand that this is a Christian nation. This was founded as a Christian nation. It was founded on the Judeo-Christian tradition, the Judeo-Christian truth claims. All of the Christian citizens of the United States were called to prayer the morning George Washington was inaugurated for the first time. He took his oath not on the Quran, but on the Bible. He kissed the Holy Bible as a sign of reverence and respect. The first thing he did was offer a prayer to the Christian God. Then everybody afterwards went to a Christian church for a Christian worship service. This is a Christian nation. And these parents are saying, we want to preserve that. We think that's an important part of what makes America, America. Focal Point in AFR Talk.